What does it mean to have the mind, the body, and the soul all connected? And what does it do for us when they are connected? Definitely want to stick around because our guest today, we're going to be talking all about the mind, body, and soul connection. We'll see you in just a minute. Our newest #1 international best-selling book, Mind Body Connection: The Keys to Unlocking Your Full Potential, is out and it's ready for you to purchase. Go get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/connection. This interview, I'm going to be bringing up Amy Stevens in just a minute, and Amy's going to be talking all about the mind, body, soul connection. What does that mean? How can we tap into it? And how can we utilize that to live a better life? So let's welcome Amy to the stage. And Amy, I'm so excited to have you on this topic because this book has been one that's been, it's so like motivational, inspirational, and so spiritual in a sense, And so I would love for you to, first of all, just take a quick minute to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you're all about.
Well, I come here to speak with you today from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I am super just multi-passionate individual who has just such a variety of things under my belt that I have been dealing with energy-wise, as well as movement and understanding how the body, the mind, and the soul are all connected.
Let's talk about that because you mentioned, the movement, but also, the energy wise related to multi-passionate. Why don't you explain what multi-passionate means for somebody listening who doesn't really understand that? And then how you know that you yourself are multi-passionate, because I'm a multi-passionate too. And I just love this. Like when I first discovered that I am a multi-passionate person, not a crazy person, because for me, I thought I was crazy, but I realized I'm just multi-passionate.
Yes, when that term was brought to me, I was like, oh, yeah, I can totally relate to that. So I've been going with that ever since. My background is actually interior design, and I won't give away how long ago, but it's been a few decades. And in that time frame of understanding design, like what makes us feel good when we're in a space. And I did healthcare design, and how many of us go to doctors' offices or hospitals and cringe because it's so
Yeah.
sterile. So I started working with a healthcare design firm and got into this process of understanding how we can make our spaces more comfortable. In this time frame, the term feng shui was very, very popular. Now, I'm originally from the Midwest, and you would have thought I was talking about voodoo when I would have these conversations with my boss about feng shui. All it is energy. And to me, it was just an inherent, already known situation. I understood the energy of a space. Have you ever walked into a restaurant and immediately turned around and left because you didn't feel good? That's one example, or maybe somebody's home. That energetic component has been a very big feature of my life. I got into teaching yoga, what started out as my hobby to get away from my interior design career, then
Uh-huh.
turned into me teaching, which then got me into doing energy healing. So I am a healing touch certified practitioner as well. And all of these components weave together, and it can be overwhelming to some people, but I started actually calling myself your calmness creator just to see how that
Mm.
felt for people. And I have been told numerous times over the decades to that my voice, if they could take me home with them, that the sound of my voice helps them to go to sleep. Now, I don't know. Is that a good thing? Is
I
that a
know,
bad
really.
thing? I don't know.
I guess if they're having problems sleeping, that's a great thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, this is fascinating because, I wrote down a couple different things here. First of all, I had never even heard of healthcare design, which it totally makes sense. We were today, this morning, we took our dog to the veterinarian, and very like there were some pictures in there that were really cool, but other than that, it was like all white wall, all boring, and like there was nothing exciting about it except those few, maybe 3 or 4 pictures that were in there, of different animals and stuff. And so walking into there, it felt very sterile, I guess would be the word, right? In the healthcare environment, they want it to look sterile, but do they really want it to feel sterile? And I think that's the point there. And then you mentioned, before you answer that, so then you mentioned the feng shui and it feels good. So we have this area in town here. I'm in San Diego, California. We have this area in town that I don't like to go into that area because there's something, it's like, I don't, it's a few miles that I don't like to go in that area because there's something that doesn't feel right for me. I don't know what it is. I just know that my husband wanted to move there, and I was like, there's no way I could live there. Like, because I don't even like to drive through it, let alone live there. And so why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that's like a feeling, right? An energy. There's something that I'm feeling. We're talking today about the mind, body, soul connection. And so why don't you talk a little bit about that, those different instances that I talked about?
So, listening to your gut is very, very important. And going into a situation when you know driving through an area, and it doesn't mean that it's like a bad part of town per se, it just means that
Right.
your energy field does not feel comfortable with whatever may be around you. It sometimes it's hard to really know what those different situations are that aren't comfortable. For me, uh, there have been times when I can drive through a part of the Phoenix metro area, and it's literally like the hair on the back of my neck stands up. So that's an indicator to me that I have to get out of there. Like something is not right, and
Hmm.
it's giving me the warning that hey, you need to move on. So understanding those little signs that show up.
So many things just pop through my head right now, thinking about, like, okay, some of you watching are going to be like, what?
I'm
You
going woo woo.
blasphemy. Well, no, my blasphemy is that I don't like Disneyland.
Oh, okay.
So it is kind of like blasphemous because I know so many people are like, they're hardcore Disneyland people, and so if you're watching me, just know that I don't like Disneyland, and that's okay. That's who I am. It's all about me right now. And so that Disneyland piece right there, like, I just thought about it. And what is it that I don't like about Disneyland? I had a lot of experiences growing up that were negative experiences. My dad was a raging alcoholic, and when we would go to Disneyland, it wasn't a great experience. Like, we had moments that were great, but the negative experiences that I experienced overpower that. And so what I want to talk about right now is that energy that I have for Disneyland. How am I able to, if I want to, like, let's say I wanted to love Disneyland, I wanted to love that experience again, like from a kid's perspective, how can I move through the energy that I'm feeling of it to a positive energy?
So my experience with Disneyland was at 3 years old, the Jaws
Oh,
ride.
scary.
So I don't like going in the ocean. So I can relate to what you're saying about having an experience at Disneyland, but for me, it extends to the ocean, and it doesn't matter what ocean, it can be any ocean.
Wow.
I just won't get into it. So from the perspective of understanding, when you go to Disneyland, can you go with somebody who like really, really loves Disneyland? Like, can you see it through their eyes? Can you see it through a child's eyes and have a different vision? It's almost like a little switch that you can switch it off for yourself, but then see it through maybe a child's eyes or somebody else who has that infinite love of all things Disney.
I actually did that once with a friend, and I just didn't get it. I
Still
let the,
didn't work.
yeah, but
Okay.
maybe it needs to be a different friend, right? Or it needs to be a different group of people, or, so if I want to try, I mean, this is something I can go out there and, and, and just keep trying. Maybe that one time wasn't the time. Maybe I need multiple.
Or or Linda, it's okay that you don't. It's
Yeah.
okay that you don't continue on and try. to have that Disney experience that others do. It's not um, not necessarily maybe in your DNA to be that type of person, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
The listening to yourself, the honoring of what is comfortable and appropriate for you, that's completely different than somebody else.
Yeah. And I do experience that, like realizing that, it just may not be for me. And sometimes I think, they're like, why don't I like it? It's kind of an interest. It just pops up every once in a while. So
Yeah.
we're talking to one of the authors, Amy Stevens, of the Mind Body Connection book, The Keys to Unlocking Your Full Potential. You can get a copy of the book at actiontakerspublishing.com/connection. So join us over there. There's also a lot of free gifts over there when you head on over. And this is an incredible book because the messages in there, it's not just as much as like the stories of how they are tapping into their own mind body connection, but also, the tips and tools and techniques that they share with you as the reader, of that, how you can tap into your own mind body connection. So as I'm hearing right now, like there's a lot of different things that are relating to the mind and the body and the soul connection. How do we take those three, Amy, and have them to connect with each other to help us live a better lives ourselves?
Well, first, understanding that they're not separate. The mind is not separate from the soul is not separate from the body. And so, this understanding of the thread of how you can start to combine and understand. There may be a physical body situation going on that maybe unplugs the soul. So, we can talk about trauma, we can go into those situations. I like to try to keep things a little bit more fun instead of getting too heavy, because mind, body, soul can start to get a little bit of heaviness to it. So, understanding how you can allow yourself to understand what little situation might have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, but how you as an individual can start listening to those internal messages a bit more, so that your guidance can then take you to the next level. And that's the important feature to understand: guidance. So earlier we talked about that gut feeling. If you have a gut feeling that, hey, you know what, on my commute to the office today, instead of turning right like I always do, I got to turn left, listen to that. Absolutely listen to that. There is a reason, and you may hear about it on the news later on.
I've had that happen. Yeah, you listening, if you have had that kind of experience, drop it in the comments in the chat there. We'd love to hear from you. I've had that kind of experience where, like, you know what, I feel like I need to leave earlier today. And then I found out that there was an accident that happened, 3 minutes after I passed that certain area. And that is freaky when that kind of stuff happens. Does this kind of stuff happen to you on a regular?
To me, it's just normal now. So
Okay.
I don't question. Like, if it happens on a regular, it's like that pull, that knowing, that the awareness. Yeah, it's just always.
So let's say you're somebody, me, I didn't grow up with this kind of mindset. This is all new for me, probably within the last maybe 9 years, 9 or 10 years. And so let's say you're somebody who's wanting to become more aware, wanting to be more in tune with, the mind and their body and their soul, their heart. Let's say you're talking to somebody who's really wanting to learn a little bit more than that. What would be like one of the first things you would recommend that they would do that can help them to get there?
One of the things that I always tell my clients who just start on their journey: put your hand on your heart, center of your chest, not like you're going to say Pledge of Allegiance. Put it right over the center of your heart. Put your other hand on top of it and just connect in. Think of your hands like the key to your soul, and you connect in. You give yourself that moment, that acknowledgement. You feel the heat from your hands. You may feel like, if you're laying down on your back, you may feel a little bit of the weight from your hands kind of pushing in. A lot of my clients who have high anxiety, having that weight on them gets them into their body instead of being so
Mm.
outwardly driven. And that is one of the biggest features that I personally have learned. It's interesting because the more aware I become, the more my anxiety level rises. And so, understanding for myself, and then
Huh.
that helps me to understand for my clients what they need as well.
Wait. So you just said the more aware you become, the more your anxiety increases. Why is
Yeah,
that?
for me, it was my anxiety that started to increase more. I am a forward thinker. I see things before they actually happen. I process things before they happen, and when that occurs, that starts to overwhelm me. So that idea, like you mentioned, about
Hmm.
leaving the house 3 minutes early, I would probably leave 10 minutes early, and then start out, and things were going great, and then I might hear something, if it was a car accident that occurred behind me, or the sirens or whatever. So things along those lines, starting to understand that these little messages that you're picking up, you may dismiss them in the beginning. Don't. There is a reason why you're getting that message. The more then that
Hmm.
you get into
Okay.
your body, so that's mind, the anxiety is mind, but the more you start to get into your body. So for me, placement of the hands over my heart, getting into my body. There are different tools from a movement perspective that I do with my clients to give them that stability to feel safe. They may have been in a situation at any given point in their lives where they haven't felt safe, and getting them into their body in a safe manner so that then they can connect back to the mind, which then gets them back into the soul. I had a client
Hmm.
not long ago actually say that she doesn't listen to her intuition because it's always wrong.
Oh, interesting. What'd you
And
say to her?
I sat with it for a little while because I wanted to hear what else was coming up. And then the words, I don't trust myself.
Mm.
So it had nothing to do with her intuition, because to me, it was a reverse mindset. So when you, I think the best way I can state this is that when you start speaking negative comments, I had this with another friend. We were talking about finding their voice. And when you put it out there about, oh, well, if my boss continues to keep me on board, well, the if in there is your indicator that you're thinking you're going to be let go.
Mm-hmm.
So, observing the language that you're using in these types of situations as well. So, if you don't trust your intuition, how can you feel like your intuition is guiding you?
Right. Now you mentioned, because you said awareness, that's in the mind. And then the hands on your heart, that's where the body comes in. And then where did the anxiety fit into that? Do you see anxiety as part of the mind or part of the body or something else?
To me, the processing. So, for me, the anxiety is mind.
Okay.
Because I think about things before they actually take place. I'm processing these different components of my day before they take place. There's oftentimes I will process a client interaction before it actually takes place, and it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a little freaky when you don't understand that process, but
Hmm.
I now have the tools to be able to go through and handle it.
So it's almost like as I'm hearing you speak, that the anxiety that my mind is interpreting, for me it shows up in my body. So
Mhm,
my anxious, right, my body is
mhm.
going crazy or what have you. And so it's kind of interesting. I never thought of it from that perspective. I always saw anxiety as something that happens in our body, but I understand what you're saying, because it starts here, but then it moves into my body, and it can be
Yeah.
instant. It can be like boom, boom, like it's
Right. Right.
like that.
So it could be as quickly as like a quick tap of your foot, or somebody who has to repeat themselves. If it's a verbal something, or the lock and unlock of the door, or whatever the case may be, it may come across as being something along those lines. I'm not saying that I'm OCD. Let me just rephrase that a little bit. But from the standpoint of understanding my mind, how things work for me, and how that may translate differently for somebody else. Those components come across a little differently for each individual.
Awesome. I love that. Well, we're talking to Amy Stevens. She's one of the authors in the #1 international best-selling book, The Mind-Body Connection. And if you want to follow Amy's podcast or get book a 30-minute remote energy healing session with her, go to Amy Stevens, and that's STEPHENS.net. Go over there and connect with her. Definitely make that happen. So Amy, you want to share with us, like, what am I going to get in a 30-minute remote healing energy session? What does that mean? Like, why
Uh,
should I book this call?
if you are feeling out of sorts, if you are feeling disconnected and you just need like a really great healing nap, that's what it's about. 30 minutes goes by fast. It does. But I tell you, the results that my clients have, even in just that little pick me up time frame, have been amazing. Their facial expressions change, they feel refreshed, they're calm. It's a beautiful process.
Did you say map or nap?
Nap.
Like, oh, nap. Okay. I like naps. Sally likes naps too. Sally takes naps every day. Well, after all, you are the calmness creator. And so you're going to help people to get that calmness about themselves to go and take that nap. Amy, I want to thank you so much for being part of this book, sharing your message, with us here today, as well as in the book. Why don't you share with us, like, what is one thing that you would like the readers to take away after reading the book or reading your chapter?
One thing I feel that all of us can take away is that, first of all, stepping into the role of being an author is not an easy task for anyone. And so I personally want to say thank you for coming on to my podcast, interviewing me, and then me waking up to say, I do have a story to share. And in my story, I go through and I discuss how you connect your mind, your body, and your soul with some interactive tidbits throughout my chapter.
Fantastic. Well, I love it. Everybody, please, go again, connect with Amy at amystevens.net. And then you can get your copy of the book, Mind Body Connection, at actiontakerspublishing.com/connection. Amy, again, thanks so much for being part of this. And we really appreciate you and what you do to create a greater impact on the planet. And that's what the work that you do definitely does. So thanks so much for being part of this.
Thank you.
It's so powerful for those of you watching that maybe haven't, like, you've got the bug to write, but you're super scared. Collaboration books are an incredible place to start. And just to plug Action Takers a little bit, I don't know about other publishers. They're the only one I've ever worked with, but they've made it so easy. Like, you literally write your chapter and send, and then it's like all the work is done.
I know.
That's literally all you do.
And then you're connected with all these other amazing women who are like-minded.
Stories and journeys, and yes,
they have made it so easy. So shout out to Linda and to Sally for just really creating this amazing space for us to use our voices.
Yes, I love it so much. That's amazing.